Welcome to Dory Cote on Shamanism, a weekly podcast that explores one theme in shamanism throughout each month. Get comfortable, have a seat, and let's get started.
Welcome to podcast number 50. This week we're going to be talking specifically about prayer and shamanic healing.
In our last episode, we talked about how a shamanic practitioner has to have someone's permission in order to do healing. Do they also need to have permission to pray for another person? Can you say more about that distinction between healing and prayer?
Yes, that is a very relevant question, because it comes up a lot in my practice and with my students, because sometimes people who are on this path of shamanism, who really truly are devoted to being a healing force in the world, have this sense and cultural belief that they're meant to do healing on anybody, anytime, anywhere, under any circumstances. And it's very challenging, particularly when you have a friend or a family member who is not at all open to the possibility of you doing shamanic healing. So, as an example again, let's say I have a relative who is in very bad shape, having just been diagnosed with a very serious illness, and I see that from my shamanic perspective, there might be some shamanic healing work that would benefit them, perhaps soul retrieval or shamanic extraction work or something of that nature. And let's say that relative, has the brakes on and doesn't even want to talk about it, never mind participate in it. I have to then be in a place of accepting that I cannot do work on this relative who I love because I do not have their permission. However, many, many people, the vast majority of people, when facing something tragic or difficult, challenging, will respond with a yes when you ask them, is it okay for me to pray for you? Most people will say yes, although I certainly have encountered people who have said most definitively, no, do not pray for me. Then I just have to accept that I can't even pray for them. But most of the time, somebody will respond, yes, it's okay for you to pray, particularly somebody who has like a strong religious background and they, the idea of shamanic healing is verboten to them. So then we have this construct in which we can send healing, love, intention, power through our helping spirits, through the invocation of whatever spirit belief we have, to be present with this beloved person in a healing way, serving whatever is in their highest good. So I don't have permission to do soul retrieval. I don't have permission to do extraction work. I don't have permission to do any of that. And I have to be open to the possibility that just by being willing to receive prayerful help, this person will receive whatever is in their highest good. It may not be a soul retrieval. It may not be any of those things. No ceremony, no anything. But whatever is in their highest good is being served. And it's a difficult challenge. It's a discipline that shamanic practitioners have to work with, because our hearts are challenged when we are faced with not being able to help in the ways that we believe would be helpful, and yet trust that the ways we are being given permission to be helpful will be helpful.
It reminds me again of our culture's valuing the doing.
Mm-hmm.
And it requires a trust that prayer, that while we may not be doing the doing, that the prayer and calling in others in the non-ordinary reality to help doing is sufficient.
Absolutely. Yes, that's a really, really good insight. And, I also would like to say that the prayerfulness, the intention that we set by sending prayer is in and of itself powerful. It's, I often am asked this question that I really want to address, and that is, people saying, but if I'm driving down the highway and there's been a really serious accident and I see people on the side of the road suffering and maybe somebody's been killed, and can't I invoke the power of spirit, or can't I stop and, intercede and do a soul retrieval for somebody or a power animal retrieval? And my answer to that very simply is, you can only do the work if you are given permission, unless the person is in a coma, and then their spirit can give you permission. But under any other circumstance, if the person is conscious, it is not okay to do shamanic healing work. But what you can do is pull the car off the road if you have to for a moment, away from the accident scene, and ask your helping spirits to be present with these suffering people who you don't know. You don't even know their names, but you can ask them to be present and to provide whatever healing help is in those people's highest good, and let it go. Let it go. Let spirit do the job. Don't get invested in you having to be the ceremonialist or the power behind what has to happen for these people.
There have been reports from people who had near-death experiences or have been in an accident and are in a coma and come back speaking about the prayers that they heard in accidents as well.
Yes.
So,
and that again is just, proof positive that prayer really does work. It is powerful, and it is true, and it is indisputable, and it can take any form. The most important thing I ask people to remember is, don't pray for a particular result. Pray for whatever is in the highest good of this particular person or persons.
So can we explore again more of the nuances between the healing effect that shamanic healing has and shamanic prayer?
Shamanic healing has a particular purpose. For instance, let's talk about soul retrieval. So, the shamanic ceremony of soul retrieval is about working with spirit to retrieve and return aspects of a person's soul that have been fragmented as a result of their experiencing trauma. So it has a purpose, it has an intention, and in fact, a very, very clear focus. This is what I'm doing, and I'm only doing it if I'm told it's in the highest good of this person for them to be the recipient of this ceremony. And that's my focus. So I'm not doing anything else, focused on that. So that is phenomenally powerful. It has phenomenal, extraordinary results with people and with animals. And I don't always have permission to do that kind of work. So I can always pray. And so prayer is a little more elusive in that it doesn't have a specific end result. Like when I do soul retrieval, I know I am coming back from having been gifted from my spirit helpers, essences of my client's soul that are ready to come back to them in order to be helpful. I know that. That is and I know the result is going to be positive for this person in some way. I don't know what it's going to be, but I know they will experience a positive result. When I pray, when I do a shamanic prayer, it's a much broader piece. It's not geared to healing the fragmented person. It's not geared to invoking the presence of a power animal. It's not geared to removing negative energy. It's not geared to helping them with their grief. It's not geared to anything. It's all just very simply, please, spirits, help in whatever way is in the highest good of this person at this time. And so that, for me, that's the keynote. That is the basic difference between shamanic healing, which is typically very specific and very focused, and a prayer which is far broader in scope.
If one wants to pray for the healing of an animal or a place, do you also have to, is it all right to do that, or do you need to seek permission for that kind of prayer?
Oh, yeah, that's a very good question. So with animals, you don't need their permission because they don't have the same resistance in any kind of way to any form of healing. With the natural world, we are one with all, and again, their mind is, there is no mind interfering with the healing work when it comes to nature, and again, also with animals. So no permission required to do the healing, whatever is called for,
and never for prayers.
And never for prayers.
Can you share with the listeners your perspective on shamanic prayer and maybe recycle to some of the Larry Dossey research?
Yes. One of the things, people pray for the darndest things. Larry Dossey talks about in his one of his more recent books entitled "Be Careful What You Pray For." He talks about how people actually unintentionally create harm by praying with a strong intention. For instance, and I find this fascinating because he cites in that particular publication some research about what are the things, what are some of the most well-known things people pray for, and believe it or not, it's like the results of sporting events. People praying for their team, and so let's just sit for a minute and think of that. So let's say you are rooting for a particular football team, and you are praying that they win the Super Bowl no matter what. That is your highest priority. Please, let them tromp on this other team, let them decimate them, let them stop them, let them render them useless, let them blah, 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 because my team must win. Please, God, Allah, Jesus, universe, helping spirits, whoever is listening, please, I want my team to win. Well, when you pray with that kind of purpose, that prayer has potentially the positive result for your team and a very negative result for another body of people, i.e. the people on the other team. You are praying that your team so overwhelm, overcome, decimate, stop, trodden, beat, render them useless, powerless, blah, blah, blah. And it might be doing physical, emotional, or other kind of harm to the members of the other team. So when Larry Dossey says, watch what you pray for, it is really true. I mean, research shows that actually as many as 5% of people say that they have prayed at some point in their life for something terrible to happen to another person. And that's a scary thought because, again, it's the power of the intention of prayer. And so there's a big caution there around the power of intention because we are human and we have a desire to override whatever might be in the highest good of others. For instance, the recent Super Bowl, I don't even remember who played in it. Denver and somebody else. Yeah, Denver won, right? So there was probably a whole bunch of people who were praying that the other team would be just, stopped in their tracks. And so think about what kind of harm that might have created for not just the members of the other team, but all of their supporters, the financial aspects of what might have happened to those people's families, and so on and so forth. We don't know, but let's go back to something that is more common. Let's say I pray that my next door neighbor doesn't chop down a tree that is leaning on his roof because I'm a tree hugger, which I am, and I don't ever want to see a tree taken down. I just want that tree to live. And I pray that he chooses not to take that tree down because I am a tree hugger and I want the tree to live. So I send that prayer out, and I get all my other neighbors and people in my community to pray, please save the life of the tree. Don't take the tree down. Don't take the tree down. And then some big storm blows through a few days later, and the tree comes down of its own volition and smashes into this person's roof and does harm to the person's house and does harm to the people inside the house. So, I saved the tree from being chopped down because that was my intention. Don't chop down the tree. Well, the tree didn't get chopped down, but obviously the higher purpose of that tree was for it to come down, and it came down anyway, and it harmed people in the process. So that's how we can do harm in our prayers when we set our intention to be a really narrow thing. When we think we are serving the greater good by praying for something specific, when in fact it can have a harmful result.
Do we get off the hook by at the end of a prayer saying, thy will not mine be done, or end the prayer with for the greater good?
Yes, I would say always to end any prayer with something, if you absolutely have to pray for something specific, with a specific result in mind, then it should always be followed by, if not that, then for whatever is in the highest good of this person or this being or this situation.
And
all beings concerned.
There's a saying that worry is praying for something you don't want to have happen. So is an intense, not a specific prayer that you have prepared for, and but an intentional supplication of negative thought, is that a form of prayer in your mind?
Because it's using intention to send out. It's using thought to send out an intention, even though it's a worry intention. If I find myself every now and again, creating a visual in my mind of something that I absolutely don't want to have happen. And I have to stop myself right in the moment as soon as I recognize I'm doing that, and back it up, take it back, and send a prayer, a positive prayer, a positive image of the highest good being served rather than this worry thought. So, again, thoughts have energy. which is why a prayer can just be sending out a peaceful thought, a heartfelt thought. When people write, I'm sending you my, thoughts and healing love and energy. What they're doing is they're saying, I am thinking of you in a very loving way, and I'm sending that in your direction. That's a prayer. It's sending love. That is prayerful. It doesn't have to have any intention greater than that. And so if I send out a thought, even for a moment, about, this person who's passing me on the highway who just flipped me the finger, and I send out a thought, that person's going to have an accident, then, I have to stop myself instantly, draw that back, send love and positive intention to this person who is clearly having a hard day, and surround them and myself with light and love and positive intention, so that my worry thought or my moment of indiscretion of sending out a negative worry, sending out a negative intention to somebody does not result in harming anyone, including myself.
Is there anything else you want to add on the subject of prayer and shamanic healing for this episode?
No, I think this is complete. I look forward to more conversation in our next episode.
Thank you for listening to Dory Cote on Shamanism. We'd love to hear your thoughts, stories, reactions, and questions. Come on over to dorycote.com and join the conversation. And tune in next week for more on this subject, or next month for a new subject. You can subscribe to this podcast in iTunes or sign up on dorycote.com to receive notices when the podcasts are posted. That's Dory, D-O-R-Y, and Cote, C-O-T-E.com. Drumming and rattling by Dory Cote and Terry Morgan. Technical assistance and audio production by JillHackett.com. And this is Susan Savelle, wishing you many blessings in your life. We hope to have you join us next time.